So, okay, my guest tonight is one half of the duo Granville Automatic, as well as being the guitar player and singer for The Swear, and she's got a book coming out. So please welcome Elizabeth Elkins. Thank you for being on Locked on the Block, coming at us from Nashville, Tennessee.
Glad to be here. I'm glad you asked me.
No,
We haven't talked in a long time.
I know, it's definitely been more than a minute, and I appreciate you coming on because from everything I see on your social media, you seem like a very super busy person. So appreciate you taking the time. You got a lot going on. But
well, a lot going on. I've also been home for 10 weeks. So yeah.
Tricky. Well, yeah. So my first question would be like, what is this all looking like in Nashville? I mean, you guys just had a tornado too, which is pretty crazy. And then you're going through this. Like, I mean, how is it out there?
It's strange here. I was on the road in Texas the last weekend of February with Granville Automatic. We were out playing these incredible shows with the Steel Drivers. It was like favorite shows I played in my life. Things were just going awesome. And flew back that Saturday night, kind of had a low-key Sunday, and the next day the tornado hit. And it just something that day really changed. I mean, both me and my bandmate and most of my friends were very fortunate. It went about 2 blocks from my house. I actually am a big weather buff, and I know the history of Nashville tornadoes. So I made a decision watching it on radar to get the fuck out of town. I actually, with about 20 minutes to spare, was watching it cycle through being tornadic. And it was midnight, so I think a lot of people were asleep. But I got in my car and drove about 30 minutes south of town and watched it on a camera hit town. Oh, so I don't necessarily recommend trying to drive away from a tornado, but I knew I had the time. So it was weird. Driving back into town, the sky was green. Obviously, it changed Nashville significantly. And then within about 3 or 4 days, COVID hit, and then we were on lockdown the next day or the next week. So yeah, it was a weird series of you think life is very stable and suddenly it's nothing like what you thought it was.
That's an obscene 1-2 punch. I mean, at least you were awake and you were able to get up and get out of town. I mean, it's got to be, sitting there. I mean, I've never experienced a tornado, so I mean, I can imagine just sitting there day of must be harrowing, but it's got to be pretty nerve biting too to have gotten a safe distance, but still, now you're worried about your friends and your building that you're living in and everything, so that's.
Sure. And I knew the house I live in was right where the tornado from the 1930s and the tornado from 1998 started right by my house. And so I knew that. I actually was in my pajamas and I thought it was going to be just regular severe thunderstorms. I happened to check my weather app about a half an hour before I went to bed. And that's when I said, no way, I don't have a basement. But, that music venue, the Basement East, which was destroyed, my bandmate in Granville Automatic was singing at a benefit there that night. So I was trying to call and text her, get the hell out of where you are. And fortunately, she'd already gone home. But yeah, everybody was up till 6 a.m. texting everyone that night, for sure.
Is 5 Points Pizza still standing?
The 5 Points there's one in West and one in East. One in East, it is still, I think it's back open. Yeah, okay. But they were part of the damage.
There's this guy, Kyle, who worked there. He's a maniac. So shout out to Kyle. I hope he's all right. I don't know. But,
yeah, I mean, it's amazing only 2 people were killed because I drove over there to help clean up 2 days later and it was seriously unrecognizable. It was amazing.
Yeah. I mean, so circling around to The Swear. So you guys are going to be dropping a record now on July 27th, right?
July 17th.
July 17th, I'm sorry. And you guys, you've been doing a bunch of live videos, kind of premiering the songs and talking about them. But what would you have had normally planned if this hadn't hit? Because I assume you'd probably be touring and doing a lot of other stuff. And do you think July is far enough away to drop a record with any ability to actually promote it and get it out?
It's obviously such a weird time and there's no predicting anything in life right now. So we had the record recorded right before Christmas and we originally were going to play, we had not played a show since, I guess, 2016. We did some dates with Skid Row and they were amazing, but
nice.
Those were so we had planned a show here at a really cool punk venue in town called Dark Matter. We were supposed to play our first sort of show for this record there on April 17th. Obviously, that show was canceled. And we're working on some shows around the Southeast for it. So, we talked and we thought, I mean, I think all musicians are dealing with this right now, which is, what do you do? I mean, do you keep putting music out? And obviously Granville Automatic dealing with the same thing. We have the book and a new record coming out in August and September. So I literally, it's so strange because, and we could have a whole hour discussion about this, but right now in some ways art and music feels very selfish and weird.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Is it important at all right now? But I think in trying to block that feeling a little bit and just say, hey, you are a musician, you worked hard on this stuff and people might enjoy listening to it right now. So Kevin, the bass player, and I on the Swear talked about it for a while and said, you know what, let's put it out. I mean, who knows what the future holds at all.
That's true.
I hope we will get to play shows, maybe it's not till 2021, but I do think that we're so happy with how it came out and we're excited about what mixes and everything. So yeah, we debated it, and I, even doing these kind of the live streams and stuff, it feels awkward. I'm someone that likes to be on stage. I don't like, this is always awkward to me. And I love doing radio, but just sitting there kind of talking, I'm trying to engage with you while looking at a MacBook camera and not making, it's odd for me.
Yeah, I've been doing every Thursday, been going on the Instagram live, except last Thursday, it kept shutting me down. So I had to jump over to Facebook. But yeah, it's interesting because, you sit there, you rehearse, and then all of a sudden, once you start seeing the eyes on you, it is like all of a sudden I get this awkward thing where it is difficult to kind of engage, and I'm talking to everybody, but it's like a screen and I'm trying to read the things that go by really quick and it's like messing me up, but it's still fun. Like, it's something to do. I'm getting a little bit of the buzz you would get from a show. It's like, it's a much more reduced version, I guess, of it, but it's still a way to keep the chops going and all that. But I mean, when you guys do return to playing, are you going to be a three-piece? Because it looked like you guys, it's like you, the original drummer and bassist, and then like you had a bunch of guests, right?
Oh, we just had one guy play guitar, a guy named Ethan, who is just, we both, Social Distortion is a fave for both of us. And I just said, play sloppy Social Distortion vibes. So really it was just the four of us. And then we did have a keyboard player on 2 songs. A lot of the guests are vocalists. I'm so lucky in Nashville to have met. I mean, the singers here are insane. Yeah. And, being able to invite my good friends who are great singers to sing harmony on it. So, and Rachel from Skid Row sang on a song. So yeah, most of the guests are singers. I'm like, please come in the studio and sing with me. But no, really, when we play live, we'll probably, hopefully Ethan can join us. Ethan is playing with a couple of bigger bands as a side guy, but I'm hoping he'll be able to join for some.
No doubt. Were you guys planning a book tour for the book release? Like, was that gonna be like something like shows, but you're selling the book at the shows? Or are you actually gonna like maybe hit up like some independent booksellers or Barnes and Nobles or something and do signings or something like that? And think that's something that will be, because retail is starting to come back in a lot of parts of the country,
For Granville Automatic. Yeah, now originally the Granville Automatic book comes out August 31st and the album comes out September 11th. Originally, there was going to be a book tour that the book publisher would be putting into place. I don't think we know that yet because, for example, one of my favorite bands is Airborne Toxic Event, and they just put out a book, and he's doing now a virtual book tour. So I don't think we have any idea by August or September if we can do any sort of book appearances. Bookstore appearances. But we'll have copies of the book at shows when we start playing shows again for sure. But how the publicity will work for it, because the publisher does have a PR, like they have an in-house PR. I don't think we know yet. So we've sort of planned out what songs are coming out, that kind of thing. But we just don't know if that's why it's so weird. And I feel like there's just no predicting it. No idea how that.
I'm actually asking because I'm like completely in the same boat. Like, my band recorded in February and we have 2 singles ready to go, but the label's like, we're not putting out anything until we figure out how you guys can possibly promote it, or is there any way you guys can get a video at least together, or this, that, and the other thing, and figuring out how to, because there's so many people uploading things. I think it's 30,000 every Friday to Spotify. So I mean, I don't want to just throw it into the void and watch it swirl into nothing. So you put all the work and you want to get someone to hear it. So really trying to figure out any abstract way,
I did read, Billboard had an interesting article said, what can you do during this time as a musician? Should you stop putting out music? Should you not? And it discussed, again, randomly, it's a good time to have a book. It's a good time to have a video. It's a good time to have other things to push with it. But, if we are unable to tour till summer 2021, I certainly would, and I miss touring most of all. I just love being on stage. I don't know if it would be smart to hold everything. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. But I think putting out singles can't hurt if you can make some kind of video. This is where I was supposed to have a video. We obviously can't all get together. Granville is going to record a video in June.
Cool.
Probably it's just the two of us and one guy shooting. So hopefully, Nashville's still actually on lockdown. So hopefully by June things will improve a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think clubs around here are going to be opening anytime soon. I think even New York City's not even opening the beaches, which is going to be insane because how are you going to stop everyone from Rockaway and Coney Island from going on the beach? And they're not closing them down in Jersey and Nassau, so it's going to be crazy. And I'm just wondering, in terms of like touring, certain states might be open and others aren't. So is everyone going to have to go to Georgia to go do shows, if they can't do them in like North Carolina per se? And does that bump everybody into different levels? Because, obviously the people at the top of the pecking order are now coming down a couple levels because there's no arenas, like.
That's what gets so weird. And I know I have friends playing shows in Texas this week. I have friends playing shows in Georgia this week. The state of Tennessee is opening music venues and bars as of Friday. Nashville is not. Nashville, it's not until phase 3, which will probably be late June. We've obviously had shows through July already cancel. But yeah, you're right. So at what point do do we go to Texas and play? Is it, you got me on that. I don't know.
So
but the bigger artist, I think, will then want to play the small venues at a higher ticket price.
Yeah.
Moving those of us who play 100 to 250 seat rooms to nothing, I guess. I don't know.
I think we're going to the dive bars, or it's going to be basement shows or something. Like it's going to be barbecues.
I love this. Hey, what borough are you in? I don't think I know where in New York you're in.
I'm right on the border of Queens and Brooklyn in a town called Ridgewood. So I'm on the M train. I'm right next to Bushwick, walking distance. I ride my bike through Williamsburg and Greenpoint, so I'm not far. I'm a couple of stops out of Manhattan.
My favorite swear shows ever was in Greenpoint. So.
Where at St. Vitus or Kingsland, or where are you playing?
Bar something. If you said the name of it, I would remember.
I mean, Lulu's, I remember, was there. There was Red Star, was a pretty nice place in Greenpoint.
I remember the stage was down low. Like it was actually a label showcase. It would have been like 2009, 8 or 9.
Did the place have a freight elevator, and was it on a second floor?
No, it was like on the street level.
I'll
have to think of it. It was called Bar 7 or something. I have no idea even how it happened, but it was a wild show.
Nice.
Absolutely.
I think the last time I saw you guys was Pianos, maybe, and I remember the TSA like wreaked havoc on your guitar player's pedal board. It was all out of whack. I remember that pretty well.
As they say in Nashville, bless Jeremy's heart, but he never checked to see if those damn things were plugged back in right. And we played South by. There's probably a video on YouTube somewhere of us playing South by. First song in, great, great stage, great show. And he hits the damn pedal and everything. It was plugged in wrong. It just, like, God damn it, dude. Check this shit. But we're always, you're rushing and rushing and rushing, and you don't. But they pulled it apart for him.
Especially at South by, you got to get to the stage really quick. They run that, depending on, it doesn't matter where you're at. It's just so many bands in and out, and like you're just in such a rush to get set up and get ready. And then you're like, yeah, it's always one cable that you forgot or something,
Yeah.
It's never we played a gig in DC and my rectifier just was not working. Couldn't get it to work. So I had to run to the van, and I have like a little tiny Terror for emergencies, and it just turns out it was the electric there. It was just, done in a ghetto ass way. So I couldn't use my amp. So, but like, I was terrified. I'm like, man, I have to do the rest of the tour with my like backup. That's the worst, but it's better to have it, whatever. No doubt. So you were originally based in Atlanta. I remember back in like the MySpace days, I was always seeing you were like traveling all over the place to work with all these songwriters. Is that like what eventually led you to Nashville?
Yes. So when I was in Atlanta, I was doing not too much co-writing in Atlanta, but this swear it's either been stuff that I write or me and one of the other guys has some cool riff ideas. We work together. But yeah, I started to probably, right at the end of the MySpace era, I started going to New York to write. That was my main focus. I went up to New York every couple of months and wrote a lot of pop and hip hop and kind of thought New York was where I should be. And then I think about that time, the swear kind of was taking a little bit of a break. Like Kevin was having a family, so things were slowing down a little bit. And that led me to start going to Nashville more. I think I just started the country scene was taking off a little bit in Atlanta, and I just wanted to write songs. So I started coming to Nashville maybe once every 2 months for a while, and then that just became more and more frequent. Obviously I could still keep a job in Atlanta and get to Nashville. It's a little easier than taking vacation time and going to New York. But yeah, one thing led to another, and then I ended up in 2 country bands and ended up getting a publishing deal to write country. But it's been weird. If you'd asked me probably the last time we played a show, if you'd asked me if I would have anything to do with country music, I would have been like, the fuck are you talking about? I mean, I wouldn't have ever thought of it.
It's not that different though. I mean, the Granville song, "Don't Come to Tennessee," that could be a swear song if you just, spruced it up with a couple of electrics. I mean, and what I think is interesting between the 2 bands is that the common thread is really interesting subject matter that you write about, because like, I've never heard of another band talking about like German magazines or like, the history of cinema or just cool stuff that like you're not going to find, and even like every band has a let's do the show kind of song, but your version is that version when you never think about when you're on tour and you're sick and you got to go do it, like I think that's just so cool. I mean, like, where do you find the inspiration that I'm going to write a song called German Magazines today or something?
Well, the story behind German magazines is probably X-rated actually. So, let me tell a relatively clean version of German magazines. Gosh, how do I even like explain that? I think for me,
I think I know what's in them usually. I mean, but
German magazines. But for me, there's something about just language that's appealing to me, and unique language. And I also find that sometimes it's very inspiring as a writer to try to write from different perspectives and also to try and inhabit stories that aren't necessarily things you've lived. So I think that's always, the swear might have more common themes rather than like Granville, which is digging into true history stuff. But yeah, I just think I personally want to listen to a song called German Magazine. I don't know, what the hell is that about? So yeah, I think things just kind of hit me. I've always kept notebooks around just with lists of weird phrases, and then those will inspire. Like I was just reading an article about Brooklyn, actually, the guy who wrote The Once and Future City about Brooklyn, and he was doing a virtual walk for the New York Times, and he was starting off in Brooklyn Heights and how it was the first suburb, and he was walking through like the Navy Yard and going into Vinegar Hill, and he was talking about how Anais Nin had a house in Brooklyn Heights right on the border, and she called it the February House because everyone who lived there was born the month of February. And to me, February House is this great title.
Yeah.
I don't know what it meant. So
that's
I think
a good band name too. Yeah.
Yeah. To me, it's phrases that show up. But honestly, with German magazines, it was a friend of mine who I literally looked in the back of her car and it was full of German porn magazines that her boyfriend had left in there. And she also had like all these blankets and ropes and stuff in the car. And I was like, fuck, there's a song. So
that's awesome.
I think, yeah. And she's dating a couple guys at the time, but I think one of them's a Delta pilot now, which is even funnier. So I don't know.
Oh, he's got more access to pick them up now if he needs to import them, do it personally.
So I think for me, it's looking for unique phrases and language. In history of cinema was, I think, thinking about someone who's so good at acting and so good at deception and lying that they could literally play any role in the history of cinema. I think that's where that kind of came from. But yeah, I don't know. Good question though.
Do you have any specific person in mind to embody that, or like just like trying to run yourself through that, like you're becoming that person?
Gosh, I haven't thought about that song in so long. I'm trying to think who it's even about. I actually don't remember. I remember coming up with the idea for the lyric at Vinyl, which is a venue in Atlanta. Was sitting there having drinks with Jeremy and Kevin in the band, and Jeremy had that really cool riff. So I'd have to go back. I haven't sung it or looked at even at the lyrics in so long. I don't know that I remember where that one came from initially.
Nice. I fucking love Atlanta. I mean, we recorded our last 2 records in Atlanta. It's just so much fun down there. The people are so cool. There's so many good bands coming out of there. It's just a really cool vibe, like.
I miss it. I miss it sometimes. I miss the trees. Nashville doesn't have trees, so they're just not in the downtown area. But Atlanta, it's like a New York in the South, I think, in a way.
Yeah, last time I was in Nashville was April, and I was on Broadway for 5 minutes and got sunburned. There's definitely no trees, man. Like,
no trees. You even drive into it, and there's no trees. In Atlanta, you can barely see because there's so many trees.
yeah.
I don't know. It's a river town for sure.
Oh, it's really lush. Yeah, definitely. I mean, my friend lives now up in Roswell. It's like beautiful there. I want to live there. Like jealous,
Yeah, there's some cool things about Atlanta for sure.
Nice. Yeah, but what was it like recording at Sun Studios back when you did that with Granville? I mean, that had to be awesome. Like, did you feel like the spirit of Elvis and Johnny Cash in there? Or like, that record sounds great, by the way, too. The performances on that, just the microphones, you could tell it just sounds awesome. Like,
and we made sometimes I regret the decision, but we chose not to master that. That is literally right off the board at Sun. And Matt Ross Spang, who's gone on to work with Dave Cobb and Jason Isbell, and he engineered it. He was the engineer there. And he would not correct anything. Vanessa had one vocal part. She's like, I am so flat on Green Music Hall. She said, please, do you have another take? We only did each song once or twice. And Matt goes, nope, this is Sun Studio. You get what you did, was to do that early on in the band was really freaking awesome. I mean, it happened because of a Swear thing, actually. There's a guy named Jeff Davidson, who's the producer for Sun Studio, and he was a big fan of the Swear. He flew down with a producer who went on to produce the Jonas Brothers, but who he wanted to get to produce the Swear. They came to see us at the Hard Rock in Atlanta, and we just stayed in touch. And when I started doing Granville stuff, he reached out and said, I really like the stuff I'm working on this show in Memphis. And so it was probably the first year of Granville, and we took a band over there. So the last tour is over at 6, and you literally rush in. You have like 30 minutes to set your gear up, and they use those microphones that that Jerry Lee Lewis and Elvis and everybody used. I remember I had borrowed a guitar from Gibson at the time. It's before I had a good acoustic even. And the second I hit the guitar, the sound in that space, they talk about he could never really duplicate the success of that studio again after he left. And I do think it's something in the way it sonically resonates in that space is very, very cool. It was intimidating, and you really could do 1 or 2 takes, and they kept it. And I mean, it was, I did get to do it again with Farewell Angelina, which was a country band I was in for a while. And again, the room just sounds amazing. Something very special there.
Yeah, I've never experienced that, like that indelible thing from a room that you get at Sun or at like Muscle Shoals or Sound City before it was gone, whatever. Like, it's just, I never like hit that first chord and got that like hair on the back of your neck feeling. So that I'm envious of. That's awesome.
Only time. I mean, I hope I get to play the Ryman sometime, and I wonder if it has that kind of special sound to it. But it definitely we did it with no monitors. I mean, you just have to trust the sound, and it's very small. It's like a room in your house almost.
It's interesting. We did like a live session not so long ago at a tiny little studio in Brooklyn. They did this thing. It's called Bridgeside Live, and usually a TV show setting is the worst sound you ever get. Like that's, you don't hear anything right, and it's all like cramped. But for some reason, that room had mojo. Like, and we were able to sound really good there and really comfortable. So. Yeah, it's interesting. You never know how it's going to come out.
It's weird because we did the Granville record and Army Without Music. We did at Saltlands in Dumbo, and we tracked the drums at Mission in Williamsburg.
Okay.
But Saltlands, I mean, it's gone now. It's on J Street. Was tiny. I mean, it was like a New York apartment. I mean, and it just sounded great. And he had the big reverb plates in there. Like, yeah, it was amazing. You can't make that stuff up. It either happens or it doesn't in a space.
Yeah, we did the record before the one we just did. We did in this down in Atlanta, and it was in a commercial building that like was like a doctor's office on like the fourth floor of like this, like, you know, one of those mega, like, you know, conglomerate doctor's offices that have like, you know, 60 offices. And like we had to record from like 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., whatever. And like there were still people in there who were pissed off. Like, I mean, there was like people were getting sonograms and shit while we were playing drums. That was a wild sound. Was that?
Where was that?
It was it was in like Eastern Atlanta. It wasn't far from the Braves, the new stadium, Sunset. It wasn't too far from there. I can't remember the exact street per se. I remember there was
Cobb County somewhere probably.
yeah, I guess. I can't remember the exact street, but it's not there anymore. Like he got thrown out. Guy who was running it.
My band before the Swear, when I first moved to Atlanta, we tracked at a studio on Cheshire Bridge Road where Prince did a bunch of records. And it was a massive, massive space. And the drum sounds were, and I've just blanked. When Matt Goldman was working out of there, he called it Glow in the Dark, but it had a name when Prince did stuff there. And it for drums, it's the best I've ever heard. But I don't think it's still open anymore.
Is that where he did Graffiti Bridge? You get the idea?
Maybe. He did 2 records there. I'd have to look up what they were. So.
Nice. So have you seen any crazy shit go down in Nashville since the lockdown? Like, is any just wild people doing wild things at all? Or are people following the rules? Has it been calm? Like, uneasy? Like, what's it been like?
You know, I literally I've had groceries delivered. I've just left my house to take walks and to drive the car around just to get some use for it. And I went to my bandmate's back porch one time to work on a song. So I haven't done any, and, you know, I haven't been to grocery stores. I haven't been in, you know, to know. But I haven't heard, I've heard, for the most part, I think in Nashville, people are taking it pretty seriously. It's weird, like we were talking about earlier, because the state of Tennessee is about to be wide open. So people can drive 10 minutes out of the county and go to a bar or bowling alley or whatever starting this week.
Well, that's the thing. We got Connecticut opening up, and that's like, you know, pretty close to us, you know. So like people are going to start going there to do this shopping for things they can't get here, I guess now.
So I mean, most people are pretty good, I think. So
no, that's good. I mean, I've been enjoying the fact that there's no crazy traffic and no horns honking 24 hours a day waking me up. Like, it's the first time I think I've ever slept so good. You know, it sucks that it's at the expense of so many people who are sick, unfortunately, you know. And
I didn't think about how quiet the city must be right now. I didn't think about that. Yeah, that must be odd.
It's like, you know, like this is a city of transplants. It always has been. So in general, a lot of people leave during the summer. They leave during holidays. So like 4th of July is pretty dead. Like besides like the people watching the fireworks or like Memorial Day and New Year's Day, it's like those kind of days where everyone's kind of left and like there's nobody in Times Square. I mean, especially now there's really no tourists or anything. It's wild, and there's nowhere to go. There's no fights. There's no people aren't getting arrested left and right. It's crazy, you know.
I mean, I'm a huge fan of New York in general, and Vanessa and I have an album called Forgetting New York, half written, about lost buildings in New York. But one of my favorite New York times ever was an August night. It was probably a Sunday night in August, and walking around the East Village, and it was just empty, and it was so eerily quiet. At the time, it felt very special to have that experience, but obviously not for good reasons now that it's so quiet.
Yeah, that's what the Lower East Side was like in the 80s, you know, in the 90s until it got hip again, you know. You could find a parking space pretty easily back then, not these days, you know.
I feel like the first time the Swear played Orleans, was it 2005 maybe? So it was pretty gentrified, but going back there to Lower East Side in the last year or two. Although to me, I feel like, again, ignoring the pandemic, if we were back in February or January, it felt like I was in Tompkins Square Park in, when was it? October, November. And it almost felt like there was a balance point where it wasn't Disney World Gotham anymore. It was starting to go back a little. Like it felt like some of the rougher New York was coming back in East Village and
Tompkins Square Park keeps it real. That's kind of always been. You'll see why. You'll see people having sex on the tire swing at 2 a.m. You know, I mean, there's always junkies and
That
people with dogs in there. You know,
cleaned up. Okay. Yeah.
was that?
Yeah, it seems like that maintained its sense of authenticity throughout the gentrification of the Lower East Side. Then.
Yeah, well, no one's attempted to gentrify Avenue C or D. I mean, that's still no joke. So, but it's it's still keeping it real. You know.
I've only been over as far as B, so I haven't been to C or D.
Well, they used to say, you go to Avenue A, you're adventurous. You go to B, you're bold. C, you're crazy. D, you're dead. You know, it's nice to be the path you'd follow.
I was bold.
Nice. I love Avenue B. I mean, we hang out at 7B all the time. It's like one of my favorite bars. And it's just a weird thing. I haven't been in a bar since like February, you know, like there's no happy hour. There's no just catch a dude playing guitar, you know, throw him $1. There's just none of that. It's been really weird. I mean, yeah, I don't even see street performers really. See maybe one or two, which is very unusual because you see 1,000 typically, you know.
Sure. Yeah, and I've realized I'm just a social drinker. Right before this, I thought I should go buy some liquor, so I went and bought some good Tennessee whiskey and gin and stuff. I haven't touched it. It's just like I like sitting at a bar and having a conversation yeah.
No,
I miss
exactly.
that a lot for sure.
Yeah, no, sitting here and watching like Tiger King while pounding whiskey wouldn't be the way to go. You know, like.
That would just not be a healthy approach to this. I don't think so.
No doubt. Yeah. So, where are we going?
Well, we've hit whiskey and Tiger King, so I don't know where we.
Where do you go from there? Right? You know, like. But you really haven't left at all, though. I mean, you're pretty prolific, and you must be like stockpiling a ton of songs by this point.
You know, that's I wondered if you might ask about that. I have been working. Book-wise, I've worked a little on a book I'm working on. You know, I do have a part-time job, so I've been able to stay busy. Knock on wood. Very thankful for that. But as far as songwriting, I've done a little bit of co-writing, but I found it pretty hard to be creative right now. A lot of inspiration to me is observation of people, and it's also being on the road.
Yeah.
So I definitely had some ideas, some thoughts on it. I planned out some things, but at first I think it was hard not to think, oh, I've got all this time. I need to be so productive. But again, I'm thankful for having a part-time job to focus on a little bit. But no, I haven't written as much as I've done some co-writing and some really cool songs came out of co-writing, but no, I haven't sat down and written as much as I've had to learn these swear songs because, you know, we played them in the studio and a couple rehearsals, then we haven't been playing them. So I've had to really sit down and work. Granville songs, I've had to sit down and learn all those too. We've only played a couple of those live. So
yeah, that's always interesting when you come out of a record and like you write the song, you rehearse it going into the record, and then it changes in the studio, and then you got to relearn it or do parts you never even conceived of because you have all these cool ideas that you didn't until you heard it back. I mean, that's always part of like the fun, I think. You know, when you're and what are you going to play live? You know, and how are you going to balance it with old songs and what works as a set? You know.
Yeah, it's weird. There are songs on Swear records we've almost never played live. It's weird what naturally happens and what doesn't. So same thing with Granville. There's certain songs. We used to play Don't Come to Tennessee a lot, and we almost never, it's one of my favorites. We don't play it much anymore.
It's a good one. Yeah, same thing though. I think that's with every band. We got probably one or two songs that have never been played live, a couple more that they get out of occasionally, but in general, they're just not up in the repertoire for whatever reason. And we like to try to mix it up and swap things out, but there's some that just don't get their due. And then you keep writing more stuff, so it makes it even harder, I guess, you know.
Yeah, it's weird how that happens. Yeah, and also I think with the Swear, a lot of times in earlier records, we would have all the songs and we've been playing them out for a year, and then that determined what happened on the record.
Yeah. Whereas
Nashville works backwards. You usually cut the record first and then you go out and tour the songs. But I like to see what people react to. So it's Granville, usually we play them a good bit live. Less so on this record. But the Swear, we haven't played any of these live yet.
It's interesting. So yeah, we were on the road. We were trying a couple of new ones last spring, early summer. And it's just interesting the way things happen. Because then you get into the studio, and then sometimes the song isn't working. Like it works great when you're playing live. And then for whatever reason, it just isn't the time for it. You know, like, ever had that happen where like you track a song, you're like, we love this song, but it's just not, it's missing something, you know? And maybe it should be 2 BPMs faster, or just maybe, you needed to cut it at a different place at a different time mentally, you know? Like, I don't know. Do you guys ever like find that you're leaving stuff off?
Absolutely. I mean, actually, with Granville Automatic, the first album we made, almost the whole album, unfortunately, felt that way. It just wasn't right. Um, Not the Sun Studio one, but the
Yeah.
self-titled. And we tracked a lot of it in Nashville, and it just wasn't right. We ended up redoing most of it in LA and salvaging a few parts of it. But some songs, there's some like weird bootleg versions of a couple songs that never made the record out there. House of Bourbon 1 and 2. I really love the songs, but it just didn't feel right. There was some bad that didn't work. So
Yeah, so like, it's like you lose a couple dogs along the way. It's like interesting, you know. But then, you know, we had a song we tracked, it didn't work, and then 10 years later was the time for it, you know, for whatever reason, you know, like it's
gosh, yeah.
came back around. Like it's always good to keep everything like so people are, you know, I had a drummer who was like, we tried that. Why would we try it again? I'm like, because, you know, different time, different place, you know, like.
Well, I think Deadfall, the swear song that probably got synced the most on TV shows, we have recorded that damn thing 4 times. Every producer always wants to record it. And if I ever sing that thing in the studio again, I'll want to keep it. But everyone has a slightly different arrangement. In fact, when we would go to play it, someone would always mess up because every version had a slightly different arrangement. And some, like the first recorded version, someone would be playing the most recent. But yeah, that song, I don't ever want to record that song again.
With the situations like that too, probably the staff playing it probably might have changed too by the people. I don't know if you had the consistent lineup. We never do. We're like, there was always somebody coming or going. So anyone who plays on something 8 years ago isn't playing anything today, you know?
Yeah, just me and Kevin are the, you know, on bass. But yeah, lots of it was weird. Jeremy was in for a long time, and then we had Cooper who played with us for a while. But drummers, yeah, we had a lot. It was Spinal Tap with drummers, so for sure.
Like the first time I saw you guys was Snitch, maybe. That
show was fun.
Yeah, I think January is my favorite song. I think you busted a string on it and just threw your guitar off and just went for it without it. I think
that sounds probably like I did. Yeah, I used to break strings constantly.
So did I. And I realized I was holding my pick weird, and then I adjusted my grip, and I don't do it anymore. It's interesting. I was putting more pressure than I should have.
Was I playing a Telecaster?
That I can't remember. I feel like you had a Black Les Paul or something, but maybe I'm imagining things.
I had a Tele for a while that broke string every show, so I stopped playing it. And then I switched it for travel, for fly gigs, which I think that was. I had a Black Les Paul that I used. I guess that did break strings. Yeah, that happens a lot.
If your Tele, did you ever take the strings off and look at the bridge and see if it was sharp? Because that happens sometimes. Sometimes you got to hit it with a little bit of sandpaper, you know.
Yeah, it had some burrs on it, but it just got annoying. And then I got more into playing Gretsch Duo Jets and the Les Paul. So that kind of became my main thing.
Were you doing
fun? That was one of my favorite shows. It was crazy in there.
That was a cool room and it was a cool vibe, but just that was one of those places like I hate, like, because I would manage the band too. That's a place I always got to chase the guy for money. The guy runs off down the street. You got to bring in 15 people to get paid. I'm like, okay, well, how many does this? Because we got 30 people. Well, it says you only brought in 2. I'm like, I had 3 people in the van with us, let alone that, you know?
It was probably every rock show ever.
They try to fuck you so hard in New York. That's like, I learned. It's just so annoying. You book the show, you go there, we set up all the other bands, and you still got to worry about like the quote unquote promoter running away with the money, you know?
Yeah, and I always have ended up being, even in the all-girl country band, I was the bad guy, the one that had to get the money a lot. Yeah. And it just happens across the board. I think having a tour manager would be a very nice thing to have.
I chased the guy in Cincinnati. He locked himself in his car. I'm like banging on his window like a crazy person, you know? Like who wants to do that, you know? Like, I thought I was done with it too. And we on our last tour, they tried to screw us in DC. I'm like they're like, oh, you know, we'll give you guys like $20 because the promoter didn't say how much you're supposed to get. I'm like, supposed to get like 30% of door or something. I'm like, that's a lot more than $20. I'm like, not much more. I mean, we'll take 200, whatever, you know, like just. And then goes, I was being really nice by offering the 20. I'm like, I'm gonna knife this guy. Like, I hate when they play that shit. Like,
no, I've been there a million times. It just, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, it gets you tough. Cause I mean, one thing I always couldn't stand is like, if you go into a situation that like we're very meticulous at plotting out the situation is going to be, you know, we're going to be on second. sometimes things happen, you have to switch, whatever. But I hate when like everything goes out the window when you get to a venue and they're like, oh no, now you guys are going to be on like last. I'm like, no, we just don't, I just say no, you know, we're not doing it, you know?
Oh, I mean, I've had some, it's kind of gotten to shoving matches once or twice where, you know, you're supposed to play at 9 p.m. Now you're playing at 1:30 in the morning, and I'm not doing it, dude. We're not, you know, or there was a venue here in Nashville where, and guy's kind of famous for it, ran great sound, but was just kind of a dick. And we drove up from Atlanta, and he was playing a game of chess, and we got there on time for sound check, but he was going to finish his game of chess. So we sat in the van for like 2 hours till he decided to let us in. It was like fucking July too. So, you know, and then I saw him pick up someone's guitar in the case and throw it against the wall. I mean, it's just, I think I spent a lot of time in my 20s fighting back to that. And then I finally was just like, now I'm just like, cool, dude. Like, I just try to be so whatever about it, because the fighting, it never got anywhere except for reputation for me.
I would have been like, Bobby Fischer, put down the fucking chess piece and let us in, you know, like, what the fuck do you think you are, you know, like.
I mean, even honestly, I think he one time said to me, he said, what does your bass player need? And I said, well, Kevin, because I was just going to say Kevin. What? He goes, I don't care about his fucking name. Don't tell me his fucking name. And I was just like, yeah, you and I are going to get along great. You know, of course, then in country band, I had to play a showcase there with him running sound. And I apologized to the girls ahead of time. I said, this guy hates me. I'm so sorry, but I'm going to let you guys talk to him because he's going to see me and remember what went down.
You know, I had a guy like that in this place, Mojo 13. I don't know if you ever played there in Wilmington, Delaware. You'd know if you did it. A big giant clown facade you'd walk through. It was a wild place. But the sound guy just rubbed me the wrong way. We didn't get off good. And then we had to go there again. And he was super nice. He was like, oh, I remember you. You guys are really good. It's like, okay, you know. I was expecting a confrontation, but then he was a sweetheart. So, I mean, I guess you don't always know, you know.
Yeah, I could tell you 2 hours worth of sound guy stories that, yeah. And I had to learn, because I think in switching to country, I learned you can't have any sort of an attitude. You just can't. And that was a very hard transition for me, because, you know, sound guys doing silly things like especially in country, I get my mic set the way I wanted, bringing my own mic, and they would come readjust my mic stand. So I'd have to and then don't touch my mic stand, you know. And so normally I'd be like, well, I can't, you know, I would engage that, but I had to learn in country to go, oh, you're such a great sound guy, you must know better, and be nice. And that still, every time but I found that happens in, like, usually once you get to a certain level of venue, that doesn't happen. They respect the artist.
Once you reach a theater and they have an actual crew that they have that's professional, and those people are usually a lot more fun to be around. They make jokes and shit. It's cool, you know? Like,
yeah, I can remember every Dirty Rock club, if I bring my own mic, there'd be an attitude about it. Well, my mic's not good enough for you. But if you know, in any theater setting, they expect you to have your own mic.
Yeah. My excuse to that was, I was like, oh, I got a little bit of a cold. I don't want to get you or anybody else sick. And usually then they're nice, you know, like that was always my lie, I would say, you know, like, get out of that kind of shit. You know?
Sound guys, someone should start an entire website based on sound guy stories. It'd probably be fine.
I was traveling with one of those blue live mics, and that they are kind of hot, and it would always annoy the shit out of the sound guy. So I could kind of see his point of view on that. But yeah, there's nothing worse than you get it all set up, and then you walk out and you're ready to go rock, and then like the microphone's down this low, and you got to like pull this move, like, because you don't want to count off and then adjust it. It's annoying, you know.
And I've had people say, you know, you shouldn't wear your guitar that way. Maybe, you know, you should. And I was like, God, just kill. Yeah, I'm gonna kill someone.
Yeah, our first album, the producer Tomas, he came in. He's like, "You guys wear your guitars so low." I'm like, "We got long arms, man. You know, this is what we do. You know, like." But as I got older, you know, I started wearing my guitar higher, and then I actually broke my elbow skateboarding, and I had to make it higher because I was getting like, when I had to get back to playing sooner than like I probably should have, because we had like some pretty big gigs lined up, and if I had it low, I would get these pain sensations, and my hand would just open and my pick would go flying out. Like I'd have no control over it. It'd be like a spasm. So I wasn't like Tom Morello, but I had to like get it up to the stomach at least, you know.
When I did a radio tour for a while, we were playing 2 or 3 shows a day acoustic, and it got where and I think because I never regrettably never stretched before playing in my life, I got where I couldn't hold the pick. When I after a week or two, it would just shake.
Yeah.
Now I have to be careful to stretch before I play, which feels like an old person thing, but I wish I'd done it at 18 because I probably wouldn't have the problems.
No, you see the pros, they're doing it. They're stretching like they're about to go into the octagon. And it's like, I thought it was funny when I was 18, but like,
I wish I'd done it, believe me.
when you switched from playing electric all the time to doing acoustic predominantly, like, did you find you were getting like raw here from like having to reach over and play? Because that's annoying too.
Weirdly, I've been having a lot of arm and back problems. The back problem is probably because I've slung a Les Paul for 20 years, but the arm problem I think is because the electric's so narrow and close to your body, and I play a big jumbo Gibson J200. The acoustic puts my whole arm at a kind of an awkward place. So yeah, I find that I do have some wrist and arm trouble playing acoustic that when I go to electric, it all goes away. It's just, to me, it's awkward. And I play it low, but not as low. And when I raise it up, it doesn't feel better. So yeah, to me, I wrestle the acoustic guitar, whereas the electric guitar feels like a part of me.
Yeah. It's just funny, like just being in this game for a long time. I used to do windmills all the time, and now I'm gonna need like Tommy John surgery if I do that today.
No, I mean, I used to, if I didn't get off the stage with a swear show bleeding from my face or my hands. I mean, there's even the early, some of the early country shows I play, there's blood stains in the acoustic. But then I realized if I keep doing that, I'm screwed. I couldn't do it. So I think it's, I play more carefully, regretfully, than I used to.
It's just funny too. Like, I noticed that I practice much more carefully, but once you get on stage, that adrenaline hits and it's out the window. And then like your finger index ripped open, blood on the pickups, on the pants, like every time.
Yeah, and you just immediately play harder and faster and back to your natural way.
Yeah.
The lights come up for sure.
That's why the swear is sick though. You guys go for it. Like, that's one thing that always drew me to that band. I felt like the thing we had in common was just you guys doing your own thing. You don't sound like anybody else, but you're easily it's easy enough you could have opened for Alkaline Trio or anybody else. And you guys were getting, I definitely remember hearing you guys were like, had like maybe Deadfall was like in like the Gauntlet Challenge one time on MTV or like one of those things. Like,
it was on a couple really cool it was on Jersey Shore a bunch,
okay.
And it was on Road Rules, and then it was on that Dennis Leary show, Rescue Me.
Okay.
And it was on Smallville on the CW, and a really cool fight scene. So yeah, Deadfall has been a very good song to us for sure.
It's paying those residuals of like, you get those checks for like $7.13 like every 4 quarters. Like,
right, I go out and buy myself a coffee when I get those royalty checks. Yeah.
It's just a tough time too. I mean, having a book has got to be pretty cool though. Having something physical that people might be interested in, because like we do okay with vinyl, but CDs are done. Like, we made just a very small amount, and on the last tour, it was like, this just isn't happening. A couple of like older people like bought some, but in general, Spotify is killing us. Like, it's great. I mean, they really can get you a lot of stuff if it works out and you get onto the algorithmic playlist and you game everything right and you get curated. But I mean, people used to download songs, and now it's got to get played 5,000 times to equal that 80 cents,
Yeah, and I think it's the new radio, essentially, and I think Granville has been very fortunate. Pandora and Apple Music have been really supportive of us. Spotify's been a really tough nut to crack, but yeah, I think you to make good money, one, you have to own the master, and if you do own the master, you got to get up there around 1 million plays to see some money. But
even that's not that much money though. I think 1 million plays comes down to $8,000 or something. I think, right?
I think it's about 3,000 to 4,000. Yeah, so it's not much, but we still see people buy CDs on some of the tours we're on, like the theater size tours. In fact, our new record that's coming out in September is digital only, and I do see we've gotten some emails going, where can I pre-order a CD? And it costs, for us to get graphic design, print the CDs, it costs ran, and it's a tough time to be trying to do that too, especially if you're not on the road. So
I mean, if you have the niche demand for it, and like even let's say 200 people wanted them, you could go to like Atomic Disc, who's out in like Portland. They're really cool with like doing like inexpensive like short runs for like a boutique type thing. Like another band we're on a label with called Shoegazer, they did a cassette. That's not really our market. That's kind of like what the real underground kids are into again now. Like if you're playing basements in Richmond, they all love, you got to have a cassette. That's not really, I mean, if there was a demand, we'd make one. I'm not against it. I grew up with tapes, but no one wants it from us yet, but they're doing good with that, you know? So it's interesting if you could find an interesting product that works. I mean, you guys could probably do like the Granville, because you guys did the Civil War album. You guys could do like 33s or something, like the precursor to 45, you know, or something.
Both bands have talked about wanting vinyl. I think just because who doesn't want vinyl? But it is around about $10. Is it about $10 to print one? I think.
Oh, it's gotten more expensive than it was. There's only a few plants. There's barely any lacquer anymore, so that's super expensive. And the pressing, it's I think 300 comes out to like 2,200 to make. So you got to sell them at 16, 17 each, you know, to make any kind of real money. And then, you know, you got to move every one. You know, so that's a pain.
In particular, the Granville record, especially the last one, Radio Hymns, we'd love to see the art that big too, because we did spend, you know, get a little more complex on all the stories behind the songs. But I think we'll probably print up some short run, like a little place here in town, if we go on the road. But yeah, I mean, digital is it's just, you've got to figure out and hope you get the support of some of the curators. And when you do, it's great. I mean, it really, but it is to me just like radio used to be.
You guys should hit up. I can't think of the name of the place off the bat. It's in Brooklyn. They do a live session that they cut direct to vinyl. So if you're ever in town, you could go there. It's called Something Records. It's not too far from me. It's like, I think it's just like in Bed-Stuy. But I'll get you the info. I'll find it. I just can't, something with an N. It's just escaping me right now. But a couple of my friends, they did a session. You can't like really it's a small room. Like it's better for what you guys are doing if you just have like acoustic and a voice and maybe a couple of bongos or something. Like a full kit might blow it out, you know?
Well, I mean, I hope we'll get back up there, because we do have, you know, the guy that produced the Civil War record is a guy named Gary Maurer. He was in a band called HEM, which was sort of an indie dream pop band in Brooklyn. And we will make the New York record at some point with him, and we'll obviously make it up there. So we have 3 records half written. So at some point we'll finish those up and get to, I wish we could just find a small label that would keep throwing like 15 grand at us for albums, so we could just keep putting them out. That's about that's like bare bones to get one done and get it out. Unless you're recording at home, obviously it's a little different. But.
Yeah, I mean, we just got lucky. I mean, we got into a situation kind of like that, where it was just a person who was a fan from like years ago became a producer and was like, I'm a fan of this band and I want to work with them and I'm going to start a label. So that was like lucky as shit, you know, like that's just kind of how it is. Like if you keep playing and keep shaking hands and keep meeting people, that can definitely happen. You know, I mean, and you guys are, you know, people like your shit. So, I mean, I don't think it would be that crazy, you know. It's just, it's hard to make it happen, you know what I mean? Like you can send out so many letters and CDs, but it's got to be, that person has to be looking for you when you're looking for them at that exact moment, you know. Like,
and I've seen it happen. The Swear had an investor for a while, and it was amazing, and we got really cool stuff done. And I believe at some point, Granville, we've had some close calls with getting that kind of thing to happen, but that would be the goal, to be able to, because we have this concept thing that's working, and I feel like it's kind of an endless well of what to write about conceptually. So the catch with all of it is just to do it right and to get it recorded and have the great art and the great stories and the videos that go behind it. It just takes, you know, honestly money to do that. But we'll see how the book does. You know, the book, you know, if the book sells tons of copies, the royalty return on books is a lot higher than CDs. So that being something really cool. So.
And hopefully the population remains literate and they go in for it, you know.
Population literate, that's a question.
Is the book going to be released digitally for like Kindle too, or are you just doing it straight up old school?
You know, I don't know, because we have a publisher in Charleston. I actually don't know if they do a Kindle version. I would think they do, but I haven't looked to see. So I know they'll do obviously regular print, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely. I mean, they do coffee table books to Kindle now, so why not? I mean, you can do anything, you know.
Or Amazon's version of it. I'm not sure. Good question.
All right, no doubt. Well, I'll leave it at that because I like to keep them kind of short. But it was awesome, definitely catching up with you. It's been way long, but yeah, if you get to New York, hit me up. Definitely, maybe there'll be. If the bars ain't open now, it's drinking in the streets legal now, so it's awesome. So there's always something to do.
Takeout drinks. Every town is now New Orleans.
Exactly. You just pull up a city bike. That's your stool. Boom. You know, you're good to go.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll be back up there because it is one of my favorite towns and an inspiration for Granville's future record. So, you know, I've been thinking about New York a lot lately, obviously, and hope things. Have you guys haven't started even opening up yet, have you?
No, the city especially not. The downstate region is probably we're on lockdown now. Stay at home till June 13th as of now, which could potentially be extended. But like I said, this is Memorial Day weekend. I just see like people have been behaving and doing the right things, but I think there is a limit to, well, not every neighborhood has, but I think there's limits to people's patience with certain things. There is a movement. I mean, once you get outside the city in Westchester and Long Island, you got the dudes, the Bud Light Patriots with their flags protesting outside of the lemon tree because they can't get a haircut. You know, like that's happening, unfortunately. And it hasn't encroached into the boroughs so much yet, but, you know, there are places where that could happen. So, you know, we'll see. And, you know, I've been a defender of the mayor through a lot of things, but he's kind of screwed up lately on a couple of things with this. And I don't know. I mean, when you have institutions like Peter Luger's and Rayo's doing delivery now, I mean,
Luger's is doing delivery, which is bizarre, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can get the burger at night now. Who would have thought? But like, yeah, I don't know. I think some things will open after. You just have to, you know. I think, and the numbers are down, but we can't have a turnaround because we got hit harder than anybody, and it's crazy. I have friends who work in the hospital, and the stories they're telling me in April, you know, are unbelievable. You know.
Oh, you know, I can imagine, and I feel like, you know, hopefully I always every day kind of look hopefully if there's some treatment or things that are moving forward that will change things. But, you know, all you can do is I'm learning to live in the moment, like you said. That's what I miss about being on stage is that used to be my only time to live in the moment, and I think that's why I miss it so much. But yeah, learning to live in the moment is very important right now.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Arkansas. They're like doing shows with like 7 people in the audience or something. But like, yeah, I think if anything, it'll be the bars will open first. Like Berlin under A will be allowed to have a show, but they'll strictly limit. It's going to be 10 people paying $25 to get in as opposed to 10 probably, you know.
I saw in Tennessee you have to have 15 feet between the singer and the front row at least. So that was
you can't get 15 inches at certain places here, you know.
You're gonna. I mean, I've taken cigarettes out of people's mouths at shows, or, you know, like stop blowing the smoke in my face. But so 15 feet is what Tennessee is doing.
That's the one thing. I love Georgia, but everyone chain smokes in the venues. It's like a nightmare. Like I'm like, you know. Like,
they stopped in Atlanta, didn't they?
I was just there in February. We went. I can't remember. We went to go see my friend's band, the Heather Set, and the people were definitely smoking, and it was in a tiny room.
Oh God, so, yeah. That's hard.
Yeah, last time I was at Star Bar, they were definitely smoking there. That wasn't too long ago. And the Claremont Lounge, you know.
Well, that's the Claremont.
Best place ever.
Got it, no doubt.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get down there to play a Thursday at Claremont. We never did that, but one day, hopefully.
Yeah, I've Claremont. We almost did a photo shoot at Claremont before they renovated the hotel, but we got kicked out. So.
Is the hotel open for business or no? It's still derelict.
Well, I don't know if it's open right now, but they did renovate it, and it, you know, is now a boutique hotel, which seems sacrilege in a way, but it's okay.
Yeah, I guess. But all right, no doubt. Hopefully, things work out, and you guys get on the road. So definitely, I'm looking forward to the Swear record on the 17th of July. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, first single comes out June 26th, and then the record on July 17th.
Yeah, got the pre-save going. You know. Got pump. But yeah, we'll definitely, you know, on my band's page, we'll definitely tell everyone to shout it out, check it out, you know.
Hey, well, I'm glad you invited me to do this, and we finally got a chance to catch up. And maybe when things get a little closer back to normal, we can play some shows.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, our label's out of Atlanta, so we're down there a bit. And allegedly, we were going to go to Knoxville to record a video. I don't know if that's ever happening. I don't know if that or whatever. That was something, actually, I shouldn't say allegedly. That was like something that's proposed as a possibility. So if that gets rolling, we'll definitely probably try to hit Nashville before or after, so who knows,
Yeah, maybe we could do an Atlanta, Knoxville, Nashville run.
That'd be sick.
Fun.
All right, we'll definitely be in touch. And thanks again for doing this. I really appreciate it.
It's great to see you.
All right. Adios.